The forgotten SHOP. The rain hammered against the windows of Aldrich's Antiques like bullets from a forgotten war. Ethan Cole stood behind the counter, his coffee cold, his expression colder. He'd been working here for 3 years since Maya left him at the altar. 3 years of dust and other people's memories gathering cobwebs, while his own heart did the same. Ethan? Mr. Aldrich's voice crackled from the back room like old paper. Come help me with this estate collection. My back's acting up again, Ethan sighed. Abandoning his phone and its endless scroll of other people's happiness, the back room smelled like time itself, musty leather, aging wood, and something else he couldn't quite name. Something electric, almost alive. Mr. Aldrich stood beside 3 large crates, his wild white hair making him look like he'd been struck by lightning. This came from the Blackwood estate, very peculiar family. The grandson insisted we take everything before they demolished the house. Peculiar how? Ethan asked, prying open the first crate they kept, detailed records of everything. Mr. Aldrich's eyes gleamed with that mischievous light that meant trouble. Journals, letters, scientific notes. The old man was obsessed with theoretical physics, time and space, causality loops, all that wonderful nonsense. Ethan pulled out books one by one, most covered in decades of neglect. Then his fingers touched something different. The leather was soft, almost warm, and the cover bore a symbol he'd never seen before, spiral within a spiral, glowing faintly with a purple luminescence. What's this? He held it up. Mr. Aldrich's expression shifted, surprise flickering across his weathered face. I didn't catalog that one. He moved closer, squinting. Strange, the symbol. It's moving. Ethan looked again. The spirals were indeed rotating slowly, hypnotically. Is it electronic? Shouldn't be possible in a book that old. Mr. Aldrich reached out, but stopped just before touching it. Tell you what, young man, I'll make you a wager. If you can prove it's worthless, just an elaborate fake cue, keep it for free. If it's real, well, we'll figure out what real means. Deal? Ethan laughed. The first genuine sound he'd made in weeks. Easiest bet I'll ever win that night. Alone in his apartment above a closed bakery, Ethan finally opened the journal. The first page made his blood run cold. My name is Ava Thorne. I'm writing this in the year 2087. And I'm so terribly alone. He flipped through pages. Each entry dated years, sometimes decades apart. The handwriting shifted slightly. Same person, different ages. She wrote about cities that didn't exist, technologies that sounded impossible, and a loneliness that echoed through every word like a ghost. Then, on page 47, he found his name. Today I learned about Ethan. The archives mentioned him only once, but it was enough. He's the variable I never expected, the constant in every timeline I've mapped. In some versions, we meet, in others, we don't. But I think maybe I'm supposed to find him. Ethan's hands trembled. This was elaborate. To elaborate for a prank, he kept reading, losing himself in Ava's voice, poetic, heartbroken, searching. She described time travel not as adventure, but as exile, jumping through moments that weren't hers. Watching people she loved age and die while she stayed untethered, though. Last entry was dated 3 days ago. I'm getting closer. The calculations show a convergence point. If I'm right, he'll find this journal first. He'll think it's a joke. He'll laugh, and then maybe he'll come looking for me. Pier 77, midnight, November 12th. I'll be waiting in tomorrow. Ethan checked his phone. November 12th was tonight. Midnight was in 2 hours. He should have gone to bed. Should have dismissed it as an elaborate art project or creative writing exercise. But something in Ava's words felt real, the loneliness he recognized. The hope he'd forgotten existed, and maybe, just maybe, he wanted to believe in impossible things. Again, he grabbed his jacket and the journal. Heading out into the rain-soaked streets, the pier was across town, abandoned since the shipping routes changed. As he walked, the journal grew warmer in his hands, and the purple glow intensified, almost like it was waking up. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Words across Tiamitha. Pier stretched into darkness, like a bridge to nowhere. Ethan's footsteps echoed on the old wooden planks, each one groaning under his weight as if warning him to turn back. The rain had stopped, but the air hung thick with mist. Transforming streetlights into ghostly halos, he checked his phone. 11:47 p.m. 13 minutes until midnight. Until he proved himself a fool for chasing words in an old book. The journal pulsed against his chest where he'd tucked it inside his jacket. Warm like a heartbeat that wasn't his own, he pulled it out and opened to a random page. What he saw made him stumble. The ink was moving. New words were appearing as he watched. Flowing across the page like water finding its path. Ethan, if you're reading this at the pier, don't be afraid. I know this seems impossible. Everything about me is impossible. But you came. That means something. That means in at least one timeline we have a chance. His breath caught. He looked around wildly but saw only fog and shadows. This isn't real, he whispered. This can't be real. More words appeared. It's real. I promise. Look at the water. Do you see the lights? Against every instinct, Ethan walked to the pier's edge and looked down. The harbor water was dark, murky, nothing unusual. Then he saw them small points of purple light dancing beneath the surface. Growing brighter, rising. What the hell? He breathed. Backing away, the lights broke the surface. And suddenly, the air around him felt different. Charged, like the moment before lightning strikes. Reality seemed to bend, the pier stretching and contracting in his vision. Time itself felt wrong, too slow and too fast simultaneously. Then she was there. One moment the pier was empty. The next, a woman stood 10 feet away. She wore clothes that looked both futuristic and vintagey, a long coat that shimmered like oil on water, boots that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. But it was her eyes that stopped him, cold purple. Vivid purple like nothing he'd ever seen in nature. And they were looking at him with recognition, with longing. With terrible sadness. Ethan Cole, she said. And her voice was exactly as he'd imagined from the journal, soft but strong. Carrying an accent he couldn't place. You're younger than I expected. I'm too early, Ava. He managed. His voice cracking, she smiled. And it was like watching the sun rise. You read it, the journal? You actually came. She took a step forward, then stopped herself. I need you to understand something. This meeting, it's not supposed to happen yet. In my timeline, we don't meet for another 7 years. When you're older, different, when you're what? More desperate, she finished quietly. Less careful about the damage I might cause. Ethan's mind raced, trying to process the impossible woman standing before him. The journal updates itself. I watched it happen. How? Quantum entanglement across temporal dimensions, Ava said, then laughed at his expression. Sorry, I've been alone with scientists for too long. The journal exists in multiple time frames simultaneously. What I write in my present appears in your past. What you'll write will appear in my future, will write? She bit her lip, a gesture so human it made her seem suddenly vulnerable. I've said too much already, Ethan. I should go. Every second I'm here creates ripples, changes things. Wait. He called out as she turned. Why me? What makes me so important in your timeline? Ava stopped, her back to him when she spoke. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Because in every timeline I've mapped, every possibility I've calculated, you're the only person who ever made me want to stop running. The only one who made tomorrow feel less lonely. She turned back, and tears glistened in those impossible purple eyes. But here's the cruel truth. The universe has rules for every action. A consequence, my presence here meeting you too early. It creates a cascade in most projections. It ends with you dying young, trying to save me from something that hasn't happened yet. Maybe I don't care, Ethan said, surprised by his own conviction. Maybe 7 years of safe boredom isn't worth more than one night of impossible. Ava studied him, really looked at him, and something shifted in her expression. You mean that? I do. She closed the distance between them in 3 steps. Then I'll give you one night. One perfect night before I have to leave. But Ethan, you need to promise me something, anything, when I'm gone. Don't try to find me. Don't waste your life chasing through time. Live, be happy, and maybe, if the universe is kind, we'll meet again when we're supposed to. Ethan nodded. Not trust in his voice, Eva reached out slowly, giving him time to pull away. When her fingers touched his hand, he gasped. Her skin was warm, but there was something else, a vibration, like touching a tuning fork. I'm slightly out of phase with your timeline, she explained. It'll feel strange at first. Everything about this is strange, he said, but he didn't let go. Where do we go? What do we do? She smiled, mischievous and bright. Show me your world, Ethan Cole. Show me what 2024 looks like through your eyes. I've read about it, studied it, but I want to feel it. They walked back down the pier together. Hands linked, and Ethan noticed how the fog seemed to part around her, how street lights flickered as she passed. She was a glitch in reality. Beautiful and terrifying, can I ask you something? He said, as they reached the street. Anything in your timeline. The version where we meet 7 years from now. What happens? Do we fall in love? Ava finished. Her grip tightened on his hand. Yes, Ethan. We fall so deeply in love that it echoes across dimensions. And it breaks both our hearts in ways that never quite heal. Then why come back at all? She stopped walking and looked at him with eyes that had seen too many tomorrows, because some kinds of pain are worth it, because love, even temporary, even doomed, is better than eternal emptiness. The woman from TOM Moraro W. They walked through the sleeping city like ghosts. Ava's hand in his felt like holding starlight, warm but otherworldly, vibrating with energies he couldn't comprehend. She stopped at every small thing he took for granted. A 24-hour convenience store with its fluorescent glow. A street musician's abandoned guitar case. A cat watching them from a fire escape. In my time, cities don't sleep, she said. Touching a darkened storefront window, there's always light. Always noise, always people, this silence. It's precious. Ethan led her to his favorite place. A rooftop garden atop an abandoned parking garage that only he seemed to know about. He'd discovered it during his darkest days after Maya left. When walking aimlessly was better than sitting alone with his thoughts, oh, Ava breathed as they climbed over the rusty gate. The garden was wild, overgrown, reclaimed by nature in the heart of concrete and steel. Moonlight filtered through leaves, casting silver patterns across forgotten benches. It's not much, Ethan started, but Ava pressed a finger to his lips. It's perfect, she whispered. In 2087, we've conquered so much. Built cities in the clouds, colonies on Mars. But we lost this, the wildness, the unpredictability of nature, doing whatever it wants. She walked deeper into the garden. Running her hands over tall grass and wild roses, her coat shimmered in the moonlight. And Ethan noticed something strange. Tiny lights moved beneath the fabric. Like circuitry or stars. What are you really, Ava? He asked. Are you even human? She turned to face him, and for a moment her form flickered, became translucent, then solid again. I was, once. But time travel changes you. Every jump leaves a mark. My body exists in a state of quantum flux now. Not quite here, not quite anywhere. She smiled sadly. I'm becoming a ghost. Ethan, a consciousness spread too thin across too many moments. How long do you have? Before I fade completely? She sat on a moss-covered bench, patting the space beside her. Hard to say. Time is subjective when you're unstuck from it. Could be years, could be days. That's why I had to find you, even if it's too early. Even if it risks everything. Ethan sat close enough to feel her warmth. Tell me about the future, the real future, not the lonely parts. Ava leaned her head on his shoulder, and he felt that strange vibration intensify. Like being near a powerful engine, we cured death, she said quietly. Not aging, not illness, but death itself. People can choose to live for centuries, and it makes them so careful, so afraid of risk. Love becomes a mathematical equation. Calculate compatibility. Minimize heartbreak. Optimize everything. Sounds terrible. It is, she laughed. But there was no humor in it. That's why I started jumping. Started searching for something real. Something that couldn't be calculated or predicted. She lifted her head to look at him, and then I found records of you. A man who loved so completely he proposed after 6 months, who was destroyed when she left, who still believed in impossible things even when the world told him not to. I'm not that person anymore, Ethan said. Maya broke something in me. No, Ava said firmly, taking his face in her hands. She broke your trust, not your capacity for love. That's still there, I can see it. Why else would you come to a deserted pier at midnight chasing words in a book? Her touch sent shivers through him. When she leaned in, he met her halfway. Their kiss was electric. Literally, small sparks danced where their lips met. It tasted like ozone and honey. Like every moment he'd been waiting for without knowing it. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, Ava's eyes glowed brighter. I shouldn't, she gasped. Every touch, every moment of connection. It anchors me here, makes it harder to leave than stay. Ethan pulled her closer. Whatever the consequences, whatever the cost. Stay. You don't know what you're asking, Ava's voice broke. In the timeline where you die young, it starts like this. With me being selfish. With me wanting one more hour, one more kiss, one more moment. And then you start trying to protect me. You start making choices that put you in danger. What kind of danger? She stood abruptly, pacing, her form flickering with agitation. There are others like me, time travelers. But most aren't searching for love. They're searching for power, for ways to reshape history. There's a man, Commander Reyes. He leads the temporal authority. He's been hunting me for years because I refuse to follow their rules. Refuse to let them weaponize what I've learned, and he finds me, Ethan understood. Uses me to get to you in 3 different timelines. Yes. Ava's voice was hollow. You die protecting me, and I have to watch. Have to live with the knowledge that my selfishness killed the only person who ever truly saw me. Ethan walked to her. Took her flickering hands in his solid ones. What if we change it? What if knowing the future means we can rewrite it? That's not how time works, Ava said, but her grip tightened. Destiny has momentum the more you fight it. The harder it pulls you back on course, then teach me, Ethan insisted. You have tonight. Use it. Show me what's coming. Prepare me instead of protecting me, Ava searched his face. And he saw the war happening behind her purple eyes. Hope versus experience. Desire versus duty. Finally, she nodded. Okay, but first, I need you to understand something. She pulled him back to the bench and retrieved the journal from his jacket, opening it to a blank page. She pressed her palm flat against it, the paper glowed. And words appeared not in ink, but in light. This journal is more than a record. It's a bridge. What I write reaches backward. What you write will reach forward, but there's a third function. She removed her hand, and the light faded. Leaving new text behind, it can show you possibilities. Futures that might happen, pasts that could have been. Show me, Ethan said. Show me the timeline where I die, Ethan. I need to see it. Need to know what we're up against, Ava hesitated, then placed both their hands on the page together. The world dissolved suddenly. They were standing in a street he recognized, but didn't. His street, but wrong buildings burned. People screamed, and there he was. Another version of himself. Older, harder. Fighting 3 figures in strange armor, while Ava, older too, tried to escape through a temporal portal. He watched himself die. Watched as Commander Reyes shot him in the back, while the other Ava screamed. Watched her fall through the portal, leaving his body behind. The vision ended, and they were back in the garden. Ethan's hands shaking. When does that happen? 7 years from tonight, Ava whispered. If we continue on this path, then we change the path, Ethan said with more confidence than he felt. Starting now, we have 1 night. Let's make it count for something more than goodbye. Ava looked at him with wonder and terror mixed equally. You're either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. Maybe both. Ethan managed to smile. Now kiss me again, and this time, don't hold back. She did, and the garden lit up around them with purple light. The choice between hearts' dawn crept over the city like a thief stealing their time. Ethan and Ava lay tangled together on the garden bench. Her head on his chest, his arms wrapped around her flickering form. They'd spent hours talking, kissing, planning. She'd taught him about temporal markers, how to recognize when time itself was being manipulated, how to hide from those who hunted her. It's almost 6, Ava whispered. Her voice cracking, I can feel the pull. My anchor point is destabilizing. Ethan held her tighter. What happens if you stay past your limit? I could fragment completely, scatter across multiple timelines at once. Exist everywhere and nowhere. She traced patterns on his chest. Or I could become permanently fixed here, lose my ability to jump. Be trapped in 2024 forever. Would that be so terrible? She lifted her head, tears streaming down her face. Ethan, if I stay, Commander Reyes will eventually find me, and when he does, everyone I care about becomes a target. You've seen what happens. Then we run. We hide, we fight, for how long? Ava sat up, pulling away a year 5. Eventually they'll corner us, and you'll die trying to save me. That's the pattern. That's what always happens. Ethan stood, frustration boiling over. So what's the alternative? You leave, I go back to my boring life, we both live safe and miserable? You find someone else, Ava said firmly. Standing to face him, you fall in love again. Have children, grow old, be happy, that's the timeline where you survive. I don't want to survive, Ethan's voice broke. I want to live, really live, and that means being with you. Consequences be damned? Ava's form flickered violently. Don't say that. Please don't make this harder. Why not? He grabbed her shoulders, feeling the electricity arc between them. You came back early, broke your own rules. Why? Just to say goodbye? Because I'm selfish, she shouted, her voice echoing. Because I wanted one perfect memory before I fade completely. Because I needed to see you. Touch you, love you, even if it destroys us both. They stood there, breathing hard, the air between them crackling with energy and emotion. Finally, Ava spoke, quieter now. There might be another way. Tell me, she pulled out the journal. If you write to me, document everything, I can study the patterns in my time. Find the divergence points where things go wrong, maybe. With enough information, I can calculate a path where we both survive. How long would that take? Years, she admitted. You'd have to live your life. Experience things, record it all, and I'd have to keep jumping. Keep searching, but maybe, eventually, we find the right moment. The right timeline. Ethan took the journal. So we're together, but apart. Connected by words across time. It's not perfect, Ava said, stepping closer. But it's a chance. More than most people get. The sun broke over the horizon, bathing them in golden light. Ava's form began to glow, becoming translucent. I'm out of time, she gasped. Ava. Wait. One more thing. Ethan pulled her close. Kissed her deeply. I love you. I know it's crazy. One night isn't enough to really know someone, but I do. I love you. I love you too, she whispered against his lips. I have for longer than you can imagine. Write to me, Ethan. Tell me everything, and I promise. I'll find a way back. She stepped away. Her form almost completely transparent now. The journal will guide you. Trust it. Trust yourself. How will I know if it's working? Ava smiled. That beautiful, heartbreaking smile. You'll see my replies. Not immediately, but eventually. Time is funny that way, Ethan. Don't wait for me. Live. That's the most important part. But promise me, her voice was fading. Promise you'll live. I promise. He choked out. She nodded once, then raised her hand in goodbye. Purple light exploded around her, and she was gone. The garden returned to normal silence. Only the journal remained. Warm against his palm. Messages to forever. 6 months passed. Ethan wrote every day, long entries about his life. Short notes about beautiful moments, questions about time and love and possibility. The journal never responded, the pages filled with his handwriting alone. And sometimes he wondered if any of it mattered. If Ava was even still alive somewhere in the future, but he kept his promise. He lived, he quit the antique shop, and went back to school. Studying physics and temporal theory, he made friends. Went on dates that never quite worked out, traveled to places he'd always wanted to see. And every night he wrote to Ava, chronicling everything. Then one morning, exactly 200 days after she left, he opened the journal and found new words. Ethan, I'm reading your entries from my present. which is your past. Time is confusing, I know. But I wanted you to know, I'm here. I'm alive. And every word you write gives me hope. He laughed and cried simultaneously, grabbed a pen, and wrote back immediately. Knowing she'd see it someday, Ava, thank you for responding. I was starting to think I'd imagined you. More entries appeared over the following weeks. Conversations scattered across time, she told him about her research. How his detailed records were helping her map new possibilities. He told her about his studies. How understanding the science made him feel closer to her 1 year after their night together. Ethan received the most important message. I found it. A convergence point where the timelines align. Where Reyes doesn't find us. Where you survive. Where I can stay. But Ethan. It's 7 years from the night we met. You have to wait. Have to become the person you're meant to be first. 7 years is a long time, he wrote back. Her response came hours later. I've been waiting much longer. I can wait for you. So Ethan lived. He earned his doctorate in theoretical physics. Started working with a team studying temporal anomalies. He dated occasionally, but never seriously. How could anyone compare to a woman from tomorrow? He traveled the world, documented everything. Became the person Ava described in her earliest entries, and every night he wrote to her. Their journals became a love story told in fragments. Messages across an impossible distance. Proof that some connections transcend even time itself. On November 12, 2031. Exactly 7 years after their first meeting. Ethan returned to Pier 77. He was older now. Weathered by life, but not broken. The journal in his hands glowed purple. Vibrating with energy, midnight arrived. The air shimmered, and Ava appeared. No longer flickering, no longer fading. Solid and real and smiling, you waited, she breathed. You came back. He replied, I told you I would. Ava walked forward, each step confident. We did it, Ethan. We changed the pattern, this timeline. It's new. It's ours. He met her halfway, pulled her into his arms. She was warm and solid, no electric buzz, no quantum uncertainty. Just a woman who'd traveled through time for love, so what now? He asked now. Ava laughed. Now we get our happily ever after. The impossible kind. The kind we had to build ourselves. One word at a time, they kissed as snow began to fall. The first of the season, and somewhere in the journal, final words appeared. She was from tomorrow. But together, we learned to live in today. The end.